are listening to the most original talk radio station anywhere. We are LA Talk Radio at latalkradio.com.
You're listening to Peace Fund Radio with Adrian Paul and Ethan Dettenmaier, right here on LA Talk Radio.
England. I hear the World Cup is coming.
It is.
It is indeed. It's coming very shortly. And the first match that I will probably be going to see, not personally, but on the TV, will be England against Italy. Now, what do I do there? What do I do there? Half Italian, half English. What am I going to do? What would you do?
I would. Well, you don't want to hear what I do.
It's all right. I know who I'm going to support anyway. I've always done
Who?
that. My Italian family always hates me for it. Guess what? England.
How can you do that? How can you support an imperialistic colonial power like England?
Well, I was born there. Do you know, it's funny because, when I was doing Highlander, you learn a lot about what the English actually did to the Scots, which was kind of...
Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen Braveheart.
Oh, you have you? That's really nice. Great. Love it. But sports, we're going to be talking about sports today. I think is very apt, don't you, Ethan?
Yeah, no, I do. And we're also talking about doing a couple of Peace Fund, Adrian Paul / Combat Radio World Cup appearances. So to benefit the Peace Fund.
That is true. We
have to stay in touch with us on social media to get all the possibilities. But it is certainly going to be hilarious when the two sides here get together. So you're in for a good time. If you're a soccer fan or not, you'll still enjoy.
What
we've
got.
Game with
exactly what we're going to be actually doing.
Yes,
because it's going to be interesting, to say the least.
So bring the crazy, as it were. Hey, can I? I know we're going to talk about sports, and sports is important, and the World Cup is very important. I was at this birthday party this week. Did I tell you about it?
No. What birthday party was that?
I got this invite. It was actually a really cool invite to crash this house in the hills, and I went with my co-host on Combat Radio, Mark Ryan, who many of you know as Bumblebee. He was also in Black Sails, and we crashed this dude's birthday party. Guess whose birthday it was? Any idea? It was yours.
Was it mine? Were you there?
I was there. I was the last one to arrive, typical. But
yes, you were. You were.
Look, my schedule's a little nuts. But I got there, and I have to say that was one of the best birthday parties, and I mean that in sincerity. That was one of the best birthday parties I've ever been to. It was a brunch, and it was a lot of fun. So happy birthday to you, my friend, and thank you for allowing me to bum my way onto the guest list.
Well, it was very casual. It was just a bunch of friends, and
That's the way it should be, though. I love it when it's not a big production.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was fun because people came through over 4 or 5 hours. They brought their families, their kids, because when you start having families, you have to invite families, but some people don't have families, so at least you can bring the fat kids through or not, and
But it was cool, man. It was really a fun birthday experience. So I'm glad we had a chance to actually visit with you. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you so much. I had a lot of fun. Thank you. But
we should party at your house more often.
I'm selling it, actually. A lot of people saw it online. They were like, "Oh, look, he's selling his house," because they actually had a something in was it the LA Times in the commercial section.
Wow.
Properties to watch.
Wow. Properties to watch. It's hard to be Adrian Paul. I'm going to sell my properties to watch section of...
I've only got one. It's okay. I don't have more than one.
Fantastic. Hey, man, I told you I'd make an offer on it if it was in my price bracket, but it's not.
Well, you didn't even want to walk around the house.
No, I didn't.
That was nice of you.
No, I saw all I wanted to see. I found the kitchen, the liquor cabinet, and the balcony.
Yeah, you were gone for a while, actually. I seem to remember. That was
not true.
And you came back staggering a little bit, and your wife was like, where have you been? Just looking around.
Hilarious. But it was a great party, man, and it was a real privilege. Seems like last year for your birthday, we went next door to the Chinese place that the Tong Mafia used to run, which is now gone. I think it's been closed by the FBI. But so this was a step up from last year's birthday lunch. The $6 Tong Mafia special to now a party with a little bit of class.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what we're going to talk about this morning, because we are definitely in the zone right now for sports. Obviously, we're going to talk about sports and injuries and sports in kids, because the numbers here are actually kind of, I hate to say impressive, but the participation in any sport, whether it's bike riding or pee-wee football, it can teach kids to stretch their limits and learn sportsmanship and discipline. I mean, and that's one of the things I actually had as a kid. I don't know, did you do a lot of sports as a kid?
Yes.
And you do learn that sense of being in a team, or giving yourself some sort of goal to, if you pardon the pun, to reach. But any sport carries the potential of injury, and there are some sports that have more injury factors than others. But did you know that 1 in 5 kids who go to the ERs for treatment of any injury, there is, are sports-related injuries?
No, I didn't know that.
1 in 5. But there is the benefit. You get your kids are healthier physically and mentally because, and I find that, I actually did yoga for the first time this morning. I know that's not, some people don't consider that a sport, but trust me, when you're doing certain things in yoga, it is very challenging to your body, and it gets everything moving as well as your brain. I probably won't even stutter for the next 10 minutes because I'm so alive. But, research shows that kids who play organized sports are frequently a lot healthier and physically stronger than their less athletic peers. And they are smarter as well. Go figure that out. There goes the theory of the dumb jock. I guess the theory also is if you are going to play a sport, you've got to make sure that you also do your grades as well, and don't forget those. According to sports psychology author Jim Taylor, PhD, endurance sports have been found to enhance brain development and raise IQ. In addition, he says that sports build confidence, develop focus, and teach kids about emotional control. So a lot of factors that I think help us to understand why sports are necessary. Now, obviously, we've talked before about sports programs being cut in schools. I was at my friend's house last night, and they're actually doing a physical to see whether or not the kids are healthy enough to do sports. I don't get that.
Because the American diet has been so shoddy that now we have to
I'm not sure what that is, but I was like, really? They do a physical on the kid to see whether they can do sports. I thought the fact was sports are supposed to be able to let everything get moving again. But that seems odd to me. Maybe there is a reason. If anybody out there knows it, you could tweet it to us.
I'm sure it's legal reasons.
I'm sure there are legal reasons to it, but it's
somebody sued and won somewhere, and now the protocol is everyone's got to go through this.
Through a medical. Maybe the kid had some sort of physical disability, whatever. Kids, admittedly, back when you guys were in school, did you have certain kids that could not do sports? I'm sure you did. I remember in my class, but there were 1, maybe 2, but it was a given. You do sports. That's what you do. You run in the playground.
Everybody was in on the sports. That was one of the highlights of the day.
What sports did you play when you were a kid?
Everything. I played just about everything except ice hockey. Obviously, I'm from Southern California. We didn't have a lot of that.
Well, we played. I played rugby,
soccer,
cricket.
Baseball, football. Yeah, I didn't play rugby.
I played rugby. I do the man sport.
That wasn't available out here. I'm actually very interested in rugby, and I found a professional rugby club in my area that I'm looking at sponsoring. So I'm into rugby, but we just didn't have that as a kid. We certainly didn't have cricket.
Rugby is a definite. American football players are big and tough, and they go through a lot of injuries as well. But I've seen rugby players, and you get studs in the face, and you get your ears become like literally. I've seen rugby players with cauliflower ears. I remember seeing the English rugby team. They were probably at 6'6" and about 300 pounds, but just big guys. And a lot of them, their ears were cauliflower.
You can prevent that. We learned in mixed martial arts what you can do immediately following a session to prevent that to your ear, but that's another health note for another time. But we didn't have cricket. We didn't have a lot of these. That's kind of an elitist sport when you think about it. That's something like the British royal family would play or go watch.
You mean like polo?
Tea. Yeah, polo, cricket.
Do the funny thing is, it's not in England. It's not an elitist sport. You played it all the time. No, you're not.
No, I am actually joking. I'm joking. No, I know it's
have
big
you ever
in
heard
India. It's big in the colonies.
In the colonies.
Yeah, it's big in the Bahamas.
I hate to remind you, America's a colony.
Left?
America started off as a colony.
But we were able to revolt before cricket caught on.
You were revolting, yes. Very revolting. Thank you very much. Boom. Anyway, we talked about cricket. Cricket's a team sport. It is important for kids to reach their goals as a team, because each individual player, executes a particular role to achieve the overall success of the team.
Yeah.
And you learn to depend on and cooperate with other kids, other people to achieve what you want to do, which is win, I would say, in most cases. And it's a question of learning to trust and respect others. There are occasional bumps and bruises. And I mean, my child is constantly he's full of. He wants to hit anything that has a ball attached to it with his foot, his head. And he's not even 2 yet. So, but when kids play sports, there's more than 1.35 million children last year had a sports-related injury. 1.35 million. That was severe enough to send them to a hospital emergency department. We're not talking just bumps and bruises. So the picture of youth sports in America is changing. Youth athletes often begin their competitive sports careers as early as 7. And that's, I don't know if you remember when we used to watch the Olympics, you used to watch, a lot of the gymnasts and that are 12 years old, 13 years old, 14 years old. And in China, a lot of the time when you do martial arts or a lot of sports related, these children start at age 4, age 5. I mean, really, they're very, very young. So, and unfortunately, when in some places they get injured, it's just, okay, let's move on with the next one because, this one's broken. But with an estimated 25 million scholastic and another 20 million organized community-based youth programs in the United States, the opportunity for injury is actually pretty enormous. That's why sports injuries are the second leading cause of emergency room visits for children and adolescents, and the second leading cause of injuries in school. Apparently, approximately 3 million are seen in hospital emergency rooms for sports injuries, and another 5 million are seen by their primary care physician or sports medicine clinic for injuries. So what does all this mean? Obviously, physical activity is necessary for normal growth in children. However, when the activity level becomes too intense or too excessive in a short period of time, tissue breaks down and can cause injury. Now, I know that as on the other end of the spectrum, as you get older, tissue breaks down and causes injury.
Right.
It's on both ends of the spectrum. But overuse of injuries are frequently seen in adult recreational athletes like myself when things break and don't work as well with tendons and stuff. But now you're seeing it in kids. And the biggest factor contributing to this increase is that young athletes focus on more intense and repetitive specialized training at much younger ages. I mean, I've actually seen kids that are like 8 years old and they're in the gym pumping iron. You're like, what?
At 8 years old?
Yeah, they get very, it's, I don't know. Well, often kids mature at different rates, and that's obviously understandable. Often there's a substantial difference in height and weight between kids of the same age, and kids of varying sizes play sports together, and there may be an increased risk of injury because of the different sizes. As they grow bigger and stronger, potential for injury actually increases, mainly because of the amount of force involved. For example, a collision between two 8-year-old pee-wee football players who weigh 65 to 70 pounds each does not produce as much force as that produced by two 16-year-old school football players who may each weigh up to 200 pounds. So you imagine the force that they're actually, smashing together. I'm very much into safety in that. I mean, but I did come from the school when I was a kid, and this is one of the things a lot of people have to actually remember is when you are dealing with your children, they do bounce a lot easier than adults do, but it doesn't mean it's not going to affect them later on in life. Because what ends up happening is, emergency room visits show that more than a million times a year, or about every 25 seconds, a young athlete visits a hospital emergency room for a sports-related injury, like we just said. This number is low because the study includes only ERs. So you also got to remember that there are many kids that go to different places as well. And when you're a child, you also have to remember that later on, that swollen ankle, that knee joint, etc., is a cause of a younger or older injury that you sustained. I can vouch for that very, very well because, all the injuries I sustained in Highlander, are beginning to haunt me now. And all
like
the injuries...
what? Walking to the craft service table?
Excuse me. Just say I'm just going to turn this radio
heat
off for a
stroke
second.
when your trailer, air
Heat
conditioning
stroke.
in your trailer.
Heat stroke.
broke-
Do you understand where we shot in Paris? It was absolutely freezing right by the Seine.
What time of year were you doing that?
Usually like January, February time.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's amazing. I've got my the buzzer to my office is actually on my phone, and somebody's buzzing my office right now to get in. Maybe you should pick it up and say, "Excuse me, who are you?" I don't even know anybody's going in there. Anyway, going back to the sports, sprains, strains, fractures, contusions, abrasions, and concussions top the list of sports-related ER diagnosis for kids aged 6 to 9. 12% of all ER visits involved a concussion, the equivalent of 1 in every 3 minutes, which kind of seems a very large number. But anyway, nearly half of these were kids from 12 to 15 years old. That's particularly troubling given the research shows that younger athletes take a longer time to heal than older athletes after a concussion. Now, I know that because, I remember when I was, younger, I'd sprain my ankle, do something, and the healing was a lot quicker, except for knees. Knees tend to have a lasting effect. But a lot of the times, you should watch this, and do a little study. The great thing about the internet these days is that you can find so much information there. There are other solutions than cutting somebody open. It doesn't mean that if you do your knee and whatever, that you actually have to go and have surgery to have it improved or healed. There are other methods these days that will actually allow you to heal some of these injuries, especially if you catch them early enough. Make sure that you ice things. Make sure your kids, if your kid's hurt his knee or hurt some sort of tissue, the difference of putting different times or length of times of ice on an injury varies. So just check it out and see what it should be before you dump a pack of ice on your kid's knee for an hour, where it should only be on there for 20 minutes if it's closer to a bone, because actually then it affects the bone structure. So there are a lot of little things like that you really need to find out about before you treat an injury. But a lot of these young athletes take a longer time to heal take less time to heal than older athletes after a concussion. There's one of the things which is traumatic brain injury, because bodies are still growing. So you can actually, a young athlete can actually have a longer heal occasionally when there's something that actually causes a brain injury, an injury to the brain. It can leave a patient with temporary memory loss or loss of bodily function. I don't know, Ethan, if you had a lot of injuries when you were a kid, but I was actually knocked out with playing soccer. I mean, people are like, oh, soccer, it's an injury. But I went up to head the ball and somebody smashed me right in the side of the head and knocked me out. And I walked around with a concussion for 2 days and didn't do anything about it. Wow. Probably that explains a lot, right?
The old school concussion protocol.
Yeah, well, that was it. Actually, I remember.
You're lucky you weren't killed, actually.
Well, because it hit me right on the side, on the temple.
Yeah.
Head-butted me in the temple. And, I mean, I literally was out for a minute. And afterwards, my guys were laughing at me, because I was kind of seeing double for... I mean, today, you'd be at the emergency room to have that checked out that you don't have any brain injury. Yeah. But... then I became an actor, and that explains a lot of things.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, look at the path taken.
Did you know girls are up to 8 times more likely to have an ACL injury than boys are? Also, in sports in which both girls and boys participate, girls report a higher percentage of concussions.
Really?
I wonder why that is.
I wonder why that is too.
Maybe the brain tissue is different. I don't know. Well, I mean, I remember I was talking to my wife the other night about watching my son run, and she's like, he's a man, he's got this body, and compared to my daughter, which is a little bit more girly and flimsy, which it should be, but maybe there's a density to the bone mass that also affects that. I don't know. Most organised sports related injuries, 62%, occur during practice rather than in games. Warm up. That's a real simple thing. I have a friend of mine who plays soccer all the time. He's in his 40s, maybe close to 50 now. But I remember when he was 35, 40, he couldn't even bend to touch his toes. And he was I was like, stretch. You've got to warm that stuff up. No. What ends up happening is you get shortened muscle groups, you get shortened tendons, and you can't move. And when you can't move, you injure much quicker. So stretching, like doing yoga, which may have seemed stupid 20, 30 years ago to the majority of people has now become a norm. Why? Because it actually allows your body to actually move better, especially as you get older. But when you're doing sports, you've got to warm up. You can't, even though you're young, you can't just go and play it because you will have an injury. And 1/3 of parents do not have children that take the same safety precautions at practice than they would do at a game. Understand that. 1/3 of you people out there that have kids in sports don't take the same safety precautions at practice when your kids are actually more prone to actually injuring than they do when they actually are in a game. I'm going to leave that. Study found that young athletes who played a single sport for more hours a week than years they were old, such as a 10-year-old who played 11 or more hours of soccer, was 70% more likely to experience serious overuse injuries. That's an interesting statistic. Mm-hmm. I'll read that again. A 10-year-old who played 11 or more hours of soccer, in other words, if you play more hours a week of a sport than you are old, you are 70% more likely to experience serious overuse injuries. So in other words, your muscles become tired, and if any of you work out, you're out there working out, etc., you start losing the form because your muscles can't take it. Therefore, what you're not able to do is keep the form, and you have a much more higher chance of actually injuring yourself. Now, football resulted in both the highest number of all pediatric injuries, 394,350, and of the highest concussion rate, 40 per 10,000 athletes. Wrestling and cheerleaders had the second, and cheerleading. Think about cheerleading. Hold on a minute. Cheerleading has one of the highest rates of concussion rates.
Well, being a cheerleader is dangerous.
It is, man. I mean, you get thrown on some of that stuff. 15 per 10,000 athletes and 12 per 10,000 athletes, respectively. In other words, wrestling had 15 and cheerleading had 12. So you've got to be able to prevent them. Use the equipment properly, whatever you're using. Safety gear. Helmets for baseball, softball, bicycle riding, and hockey. Did you do that when you were a kid? Did you have helmets when you were riding a bike?
No, I did not. I probably should have, but I did not. Well, actually, that's not true, because if we were doing some like BMX cross country craziness, we did helmet up. Right.
But there's other ones like inline skating or riding scooters and skateboards, racquetballs, basketball. You've got to ask for eyewear or shatterproof goggles. I mean, I used to watch those. I mean, eventually, you got a finger in the eye when you're playing basketball. I remember when I played basketball as a kid, in England, it wasn't a very big sport. We played it kind of in the gym recreationally. But the amount of times I got my finger jammed, and my knuckles eventually became wider than my fingers because of it. I can't tell you, so many times do it. Did you ever have that?
No.
Did you? No,
I didn't play a lot of basketball, though.
Well, I didn't either. I played rugby and soccer, and
yeah, we know.
I ran and jumped and javelin, and
you played cricket.
I actually had the school record. I want to let you know in the triple jump.
In rugby or in cricket, do you, instead of a halftime, do you have like a tea time break? You do, don't you?
There is a halftime,
and it's basically tea and crumpets, right on the side.
Crumpets. Do you know what crumpet is in England?
What, like a biscuit or what? What's a crumpet?
Well, there's two ways. If in England, the slang is a crumpet. Actually, is like a little. I want to say pastry. It's like a muffin, not a muffin.
That's what Mary Poppins said.
Right, but a piece of crumpet in England means a nice-looking girl.
Really?
She's a lovely piece of crumpet. Yeah,
wow.
That's what it means. It's a very slang.
I'm glad I wasn't asking for crumpets when I was in England. And I don't know.
Could I have some crumpet, please? Yes, sir. Please. Which way would you like?
Where can I buy some crumpets?
That wouldn't go down too well, would it?
No, it would not.
So also the other thing, when we were kids, I used to play rugby, as I said, and sometimes we would play on ice. The ground was iced over.
Yeah.
So maintaining the playing surfaces, making sure they're not full of holes and ruts that could cause your kids to trip and fall. You've got to look at that. Kids doing high-impact sports like basketball and running should do them on surfaces like tracks and wooden basketball courts, which can be much more forgiving on surfaces than like concrete. Now, I know some people don't have the ability for that, but in that case, make sure you have the right shoes. These days, there are fantastic sneakers that you can actually buy for those sports. Make sure you have them, because then you get things like shin splints, and those later on in life can cause you problems. Well, I'm just preparation. I mean, I could just like go on, and there's so much information here. I could go on for like two different things. Listen, let's just go to organisations making a difference right now. No. I tell you what. Let's bring John Beerley in for a minute because we've got a hero of a week, Olivia Keith.
He's here.
Hello, John. Are you there?
We do, gentlemen. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing really well. It is a good morning. It's always exciting to be on the show and listen to these statistics and ways we can all work together to make sure we make things better. It's great.
Well, I know we've got Olivia Keith this morning, who's 10 years old. She was a hero of the week from May 21st, and we're going to be calling her shortly. Do you want to
Want to try it?
No. Before we do, let's just give a little bit of rundown again to remind our viewers our listeners. I always say viewers. Our listeners about Olivia.
Yes, well, Olivia, who you can read all about on her website at oliviakeith.com. She said she's an incredible young lady from my own home state of Indiana. When Olivia began to win several pageants, she used her increased public profile in her community to go into schools and teach kids incredibly great lessons and tips on what they can do to be safer at sports. And she has a very good reason for why she had an interest in that. And I think that's something that we'll let her discuss when she comes on, because like I said, it's a really great story. So we'll be having Olivia and her mother, Darcy Keith, who her mother has a great website as well at darcykeith.com. Darcy is one of the top public speakers in the state of Indiana. She's an incredible motivational speaker, and they're going to have some really great information for us here in a minute on what kids can do to stay safe and how their own family has kind of dealt with that on a personal level.
Fabulous. All right, let's get her on the line.
Here we go. I'll see if I can pull this off. It'll be a technical miracle if I can swing this.
Well, actually, what we were hearing this morning, we actually have 4 call-ins in the other shows that we do here.
Yeah, I don't know about that other studio. That sounds like a complete cuckoo's nest of craziness over there. Not the case here.
Are we able to? Now, of course, I'll be talking about later on about some organizations that actually you can look up as well that deal with keeping kids safe. Do we have Olivia online yet? Hello! The miracle of technology. Hello, Olivia. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. You just had a birthday, didn't you?
Yes.
Well, we're all here at Peace Farm Radio. We would like to wish you a happy birthday. How old are you? And how was your birthday?
I just turned 11, and it was a really fun experience. To go around Indianapolis and stuff.
Well, John brought us your information in May, and we know that you work really hard to teach kids about safety, which is what we're talking about this morning. What inspired you to actually do this?
My mom inspired me because she has a brain injury, and my dad also has a brain injury, and I don't want other kids to deal with the same thing that my parents did.
Well, it's funny because I was actually talking this morning on the show that when I was probably about actually a little older, I was probably my teens, about 17. I had somebody headbutt me in the temple, which we're talking about brain injuries. How you can be very careful to play it safe, if you like. And I know that's what you started the organization. How old were you when you started Play It Safe?
I was 10, and I actually just started it this January. So
it's a new and what are the basic steps everyone can take to protect their bodies and brains? What would you suggest?
Always wear a helmet and make sure it fits properly. When outside, always make sure you can be seen. Play by the rules. Buckle up when riding in a car. Have an emergency plan and know how to respond. Okay,
so you have students. One of your Play It Safe presentations, and I hear that each one receives one of your 5 ways to play it safe cards. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so, can you? What are these 5 ways? Are those the 5 ways you just talked about, or is there other ways to play it safe that you share?
Those are the ones I just talked about.
Those are the ones you talked about. Okay. So
yes.
what else can people hear at your presentations? What else goes on there?
Always get an enough sleep and eat healthy, and about fire safety and swimming safety.
So you talk about the whole gamut of things.
Yes.
How many schools have you presented at?
I have presented at 4 schools, but I'm going to more very shortly.
Right. So you're spreading out now, right?
Yes.
And if someone wants to book you to speak at an event, how do they contact you? Through your website?
Yes, at www.oliviakeith.com.
Okay. John will actually put that on our website once we finish the show, so that... and I hear your mum's actually a motivational speaker, is that correct?
Yes.
Is that one of the reasons why you like to speak?
Yes.
Does she teach you how to get up there and talk in front of people?
Yeah.
I know you've been very successful at youth pageants too. You've won some titles?
I was actually Miss Indiana Junior Preteen for National American Miss, and I was also a Miss Indiana Preteen for ANSO,
So do you?
American National Teenager Scholarship Organization.
Well, you have titles already at 10. This is awesome. How has that helped you with Play It Safe?
Well, it taught me about confidence, poise, and communication skills.
Mm-hmm. So it gave you something that led into something else. It gave you some sort of ability now to actually move into what you want to do, which is this Play It Safe organization, right?
Yes.
Now, I also hear I've got information in front of me. John's really good at this. You were recently named as Indiana Hero for your community service by the Indiana Pacers, and you've got a picture of you on your website where you're standing on the court at the Pacers game. You want to tell me a little bit about what happened there?
Since I've been around helping kids, I was nominated for that award, and it was like such a fun experience.
So did you have fun at the Pacers game?
I did. I got to meet Chris Copeland. He's number 22.
Did they win?
They did.
Oh, it's probably because
Yes.
you were there. That's why. So also, there's you partnered up with Dave Dewerson Athletic Safety Fund. Can you tell us a little bit about them and how you became involved with them?
The Dave Dewerson Athletic Safety Fund helps athletes in the 5th grade through 12th grades with preventing the identifying brain injuries in all sports by raising awareness, testing the evaluation of returning to play.
Well, you know a lot at age 11, don't you? You know a lot more than I did. So you you've also looks like you got a furry friend named Belle who accompanies to some of your events. Who's Belle?
She's actually my sweet little rescue dog, and she's turning 7 this November.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's so sweet. So what does your mom think about you doing all this stuff?
She's loving it. She's really excited.
Is she there with you?
Yes.
Can I talk to her?
Yes.
Hello. Good morning.
Hello, Darcy. Good morning.
Good morning.
So have you been there? Helping your child along. Supporting her in this idea that she came up with.
Yes, my husband and I have been supporting her. She's a very passionate, energetic, well-spoken young child, and she just used all these talents to help other kids, again, not experience what my husband and I do every day, and with her idea of wanting to help her classmates and wanting to help her friends, not experience what we do, she's really taken this, and we support her 100%. She's doing awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's what we find each week is that parents really are the motivation behind, not the motivation, but the backbone of giving support to the children who want to do something like this. And it's changed so much in the years when I was a kid, when kids should be seen and not heard. And,
Right.
And I think it's all power to the changing ideas of parents these days. And I commend you for supporting her in doing this, because I think it will go into some other form. It will help her as she grows, as well as helping other children with what she has to offer.
And the nice thing, Adrian, about it is that she came up with this idea all by herself. She selected the logo. She selected the name of her organization. She's done this all on her own. So we're very, very proud of her for that.
So I also know you've got links on Facebook and Twitter. Can you share those with us?
I have the www.facebook.com-u have the www.twitter.com/playitsafe
Underscore.
_safe_.
Okay. What we'll do, we'll be posting it on our site shortly. We actually have a whole new site. We'll be linking to you so that people can find you if they search things. This would probably come under protecting children, I would imagine, because we have protect, educate, and aid children everywhere is our motto. So we're creating a new site. We'll be linking all those from our site as well as in our blog, which currently, ladies and gentlemen, has been offline because of some technical issues. But we will have that up and running again soon. Now, one last question for you. In addition to running Play It Safe and competing in pageants, and you do all kinds of community service projects like collecting books and supplies for schools in need, how do you balance out all of these projects and still have time to do what you want to do?
I usually only have about 2 or 3 days a week when we do community service, so I have time to hang out with my friends and mainly sports.
Sports. What sports do you like?
I love basketball, volleyball, and softball.
And softball, right. My daughter's probably going to be playing some softball, though right now she's into gymnastics. We've just got her into gymnastics, which is a tough sport as well. So if there was one message you could give our listeners today, what would it be?
It would be use your brains to help you protect your body.
Right, good point. Is there anything else you want to share with us? Because you do speak a lot to either your mom or you.
Off the top of my head, Adrian, I can't think of anything. It's just a lot of kids want to have fun, and what Olivia's organization does is teaches kids how to have fun while playing it safely. Right. She gives them thoughts and ideas as to how to do that because kids want to be kids. And you can do, a kid can be a kid and do it safely and have fun. So that's one of the things that Olivia wants to do.
Right.
Darcy, you are also a very accomplished public speaker yourself. Could you tell us a little bit about what some of the topics that you speak about regularly?
Oh, sure, John. I am a regular speaker and an expert on overcome adversity and dealing with change. I'm also an NFL rookie success speaker. I speak on the traffic education and decision-making module of the NFL Rookie Success Program.
Now, what is that? What is the Rookie Success Program? What do they do?
Well, the NFL Rookie Success Program has several different modules that all NFL rookies have to attend and go through, such as financial, such as drugs, alcohol, healthy relationships, unhealthy relationships. Well, a couple of years ago, they added a new module that is, again, called Traffic Education and Decision Making. And then I was brought in by the Baltimore Ravens to speak to their rookies about that. And then in 2012, the Indianapolis Colts brought me in to speak to Andrew Luck and other awesome, fun rookies. And so that was a really neat experience. It's hard being a middle-aged white woman telling young, athletic African-Americans, or most of them African-Americans, how to make good decisions, not only in life, but behind the wheel and on the field. So it's been a lot of fun.
It's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Baltimore Ravens. That was actually where my wife went to college at Maryland College, which is very close to Baltimore, and one of her friends was actually one of the cheerleaders on the Ravens. So
fun.
There's 6 degrees of separation for you right there.
There you go.
Well, I thank you for coming on this morning. It's a pleasure talking to you, and of course, Olivia, you are a hero of the week from May 21st, and please keep up the good work, and we'll be linking to you, and hopefully we'll hear from you again.
Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you, Darcy. Thank you, Olivia. Bye-bye. Take care. So there you have it. There we go. John?
I love it.
Fabulous.
I love it. Once again, a young person who has an idea and works very hard to get that message out to other kids and parents, to let them know that, every week on the show, we always hear, statistics that are troubling and they're sad, and there's so many issues out there. But that's why I love this show so much, because, yes, there are problems out there that need to be solved, but we're going to do our best every week to try to share with you some solutions and highlight people like Olivia and her mom who are working every day to make those solutions happen. It's fantastic stuff.
Well said, John. I think that's what we want to do, is bring those solutions to you so that the people that are working in the communities around the US and around the world are actually highlighted so that you guys can know where they are, and they might be in your hometown. You never even knew about it.
Yeah, like you said, Olivia is just right up the road from me. Like you said, right here in the home state of Indiana. So very, very proud of that fact.
And you never knew about it until you did a little research for it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, there's so many different things that we could have been talking about this morning, but one of the things is adequate adult supervision and commitment to safety. There are certain things that people should also look at when they actually have their kids in sports, is to make sure that they're supervised by qualified adults, and leagues and teams that have the same. You've got to make sure you pick the leagues and teams that have the same commitment to safety and injury, to prevention to injury that you do. The team coach should have first aid and CPR training. The coach's philosophy should promote the player's well-being. This is something I've learned very early in martial arts. Your child is only going to be as good as the teacher that is teaching it. If you just want to put your kid in any program anyway, just because you want to put them in a soccer or football or whatever program, it might not be the right program to put them in. You might have to travel a little further to put them in the correct program that keeps them safe, because that coach and that coach's ideals may not be yours and may not be the best interest. Might not have the best interest of safety to your child. So make sure you do a little research first before you put your kid into certain teams. And, preparation is a very, you can't send a kid to swim to a swimming pool that can't swim. It's the same thing. It's important. You can't send kids to play a sport that they're unprepared to play. Make sure your child knows how to play that sport before going out on the field. Simple things like this. Don't just throw your kids to the lions. Adequately prepare with warm-ups and training sessions before practices as well as before games. A simple thing to do. Your kid might not want to do it. They might just want to run around. But it might be... Or if your kid doesn't want to do it, like my son, some things is... The best word a 2-year-old knows is no. No. But you have to redirect. Redirecting is the best way of doing it. So if your kid doesn't want to warm up because of the way you want to warm up, find a different way to get them to warm up that allows them to do that is interesting to them, that they will accept, that they will say yes to. Now, an example, knowing how to tackle safety is important in preventing injuries in football and soccer. Having children practice form, which is what we used to do when you do martial arts. You practice the form before you learn how to punch or kick. It can prevent injuries during things like baseball and softball and so many other activities. So you've got to be sure that you safely, slowly increase activities to improve physical fitness. And being in good condition can also protect your kids from injury. Hey, John, what did you play when you were a kid?
We just lost him, actually.
Oh, did we lose him?
Yeah, there's a problem with the call, and he's actually been texting me. He's having some tech issues, so we'll get him back.
It's funny because one of my partners in my business is actually... somewhere where they're actually having tornado warnings, and he's in a bunker.
Let's hope it's not that. But would you like me to answer some questions?
Yeah, but no, I think you told me what sports you did when you were a kid. Did you when you were a kid? Did you drink a lot of fluid? Did you hydrate?
I tried to. Actually, I think we got John back.
I think I'm back.
He thinks he's back.
I was just about to ask you what sports you did when you were a kid.
I was not shocking. I was not really that athletic when I was a kid. I never played any team sports at school. Now, of course, anytime, my friends and I would get together, again, we lived in a rural area, so it was always fun to just, go running through the woods and, play this or play that. I've really gotten more into especially exercise, kind of in the more recent years, I'm kind of at an age where I can't, eat the way that I used to and not have consequences from that. So I've been really interested mostly in things like P90X and Insanity, some of these exercise programs that you can do at home. And, that's one of the things that I like. I think my favorite of all of them is Insanity, because it starts off with an 11-minute warm-up, and then it goes into stretching. Then you have the bulk of the exercise, and then it ends with more stretching at the end. And the warm-up and the stretching are so important. Yeah, you can really hurt yourself if you don't go through the warm up and the stretching before the main bulk, and then again you have to do that cool down stretching at the end, and you feel fantastic. I mean, when I do those programs, it's best for me. I got the best results, I think, when I would wake up early enough in the morning to do it before I would go to work.
Yeah, I used to do that too. I mean, having kids is a little different, but
yeah, and and again, sometimes it's hard to get up that early and do it. But if you do it, you get yourself into the habit of it. And by the time you leave the house and you get to work, you've already been up and you've already exercised. You already feel great. I ate better because I didn't want to undo the results that I was getting from the workouts. I slept like a baby, because you'd already had a good full day. By the time you go to bed, you're ready to fall asleep. Every aspect of life, energy, confidence, everything was just so much better. And again, if you have the right safety with the warm ups and the stretching, you're golden.
I wonder where that saying came from, slept like a baby, because I know my babies didn't sleep all through the night.
Well, my friends would say the same. Many of my other friends would say the same, Adrian.
Who came up with that idea?
Maybe off there.
But, one of the other things, though, is drink plenty of fluids and allow your kids to rest during practices and games, because that's the other thing. When you're like I said before, if you're overtired, you're going to cause injuries because you're not doing your form correctly. So That's very, very important, as well as is temperature. If it's too hot, parents and coaches should pay close attention to making sure that players are hydrated and appropriately dressed for those conditions. Now, I'm going to give you a very simple tip if your kid gets hurt. It's a very simple tip, and the acronym is RICE. Everybody eats it. Most people eat it. Anyway, RICE. It's a good method to remember the treatment straight after an injury, because it's important to treat an injury pretty quickly. And this is up to 48 hours. Once you get back home after the injuries happen, RICE means rest, ice, using an ice pack up to around 20 minutes every few hours. Again, dependent on where the injuries occurred. If it's on a bone, it's a different amount of time than you actually have it. If it's on a muscle group, it's different. So RICE, rest, ice, compression, and elevation. You've got to elevate the injury. Okay, and make sure that it's compressed. In other words, that it has a wrap around it, so that it's held tightly together. Mm-hmm. So those things are important. And as we finish in a second, there are just some organizations I want to give a shout out to. Safe Kids Worldwide, www.safekids.org. They work with parents and community leaders to urge school boards and sports leagues to adopt best practices and guidelines to address all sporting injuries among their student athletes. There's also Stop Injuries, which is stopinjuries.org, www.stopinjuries.org. There is basically a growing epidemic of preventable youth sports injuries that are dismantling kids' athletic hopes and dreams at an early age. How many kids have you heard, oh, he did his knee in, oh, he did something to his back, he can't do this anymore? It's preventable. Stop Sport Injuries campaign aims to actively engage youth sports parents and coaches and athletes and healthcare providers to help prevent athletic overuse and trauma injuries in kids. You can also look at their tip sheets that they have on their website. So, John, do you have any other tips or any other things that we can talk about this morning?
Two quick things. First of all, there is no better time to follow us on Twitter at The Peace Fund and Peace Fund Radio, to like us on Facebook at The Peace Fund and Peace Fund Radio. If you've noticed over the last few days, those accounts have absolutely exploded with activity, thanks to Nancy, who's doing some incredible work for the Peace Fund. So thank you, Nancy, for getting those accounts going. Please, if you're out there listening, follow us so we can keep you up to date on all of the amazing things that are going on. And one other really quick thing about today's topic, it was just announced yesterday that a film is being made based on a 2009 GQ article called Game Brain, which was about the NFL's concussion problem. Will Smith will be playing Dr. Bennett Omalu, who was the forensic neuropathologist who discovered chronic traumatic encephalopathy. And the film would be produced by Ridley Scott. So those are two very heavy hitters. And hopefully this film will bring some more attention to this issue.
Okay. Well, I think, yes, we're going to have a lot more social media presence soon. Nancy's putting together a team so that you can all hear the stuff that's happening at the Peace Fund. We have a lot of stuff. Some of you may have noticed on my Twitter feed that I released our first Peace Fund Games logos. Those logos will be on posters, etc., for our paintball competition later in November. So you're going to be able to hear about a lot of that stuff that's happening, as well as our poker tournament that we're putting together with Microsoft. You can follow about that stuff. So we've got a lot of stuff happening. We're going to be talking about the houses that we're building in Dominican Republic very shortly. We're raising money there. That'll be on our new website as well. There'll be a lot of things for you to view, and Nancy and her team will be able to bring you all that. I also want to give a shout out to our new webmaster as well as our web developer. We have some new people in that area, as well as project managers that are coming on to help us. Great bunches of people. Thank you so much for donating your time, guys, to helping us build the Peace Fund even bigger than it is, and to actually bring the message to the people around. Again, thank you, John, for bringing us all the information this week. Ethan, thank you for helping us bring this out to the people, and to the Speechy family for making this possible. All you out there, thank you for helping us do this. We can't do this alone. So, in closing, a quote by Benjamin Franklin: "An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure." This is Adrian Paul and Ethan Dettenmaier. We will talk to you next week.
You're listening to Peace Fund Radio with Adrian Paul and Ethan Dettenmaier, right here on LA Talk Radio.